Is CSIS not tracking these videos? What other terrorists are walking the streets here in Canada right now waiting to commit terrorist acts on innocent Canadians? What the hell is going on?
The Standing Committee on Public Safety and National Security met for over 4 hours on Wednesday, interrogating over 11 witnesses to investigate how a member of ISIS managed to enter Canada, obtain citizenship, and plot a mass casualty terror event. Dominic LeBlanc attended, though he probably wishes that he didn't.
Let's take a look.
Thank you for your invitation. I imagine most of you have missed me a lot over the summer. You must be very excited to see me. Looking at your smiling faces tells me that this is a very happy reunion, and I'm looking forward to our conversation that will follow. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Minister. We will now start our questions with Mr. Caputo. 6 minutes, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being here. And I echo your sentiments where you thank our security services and responders for foiling what sounds like it would have been a serious terrorist attack that would have impacted Canadians. Now, Minister, to be clear here, this person who is charged with terrorism offenses with his son, he arrived in February of 2018, correct? I'm going off the information you gave me, Minister.
Yes, in February 5th, 2018, the subject entered Canada at Pearson Airport.
And he made an asylum claim in June of 2018, correct?
Yes, he went to an immigration department office and made that asylum claim.
And he was granted citizenship in May of 2024, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And provided a work permit in September of 2018. That was that was the initial basis on which he was able to legally be in Canada. Is that right?
Yes, that appears correct from the chronology before the committee.
Okay. Permanent resident of September of 2021. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Now, you wrote me a letter on August 12th of this year stating none of this. So I'm just going to note here for the record that you said, Minister, that we couldn't comment on any of this, and then lo and behold, here today we have this vast chronology that has appeared just before committee. It seems odd that you would say you couldn't give us any of this information, and that here today we have all of this information from you. What we have here, Minister, is obviously a colossal failure. I'll be direct. How did somebody slide under the radar for so long, 2018 to 2024?
So just with respect to your initial comment, you're right. In August, I thought it was important, and I asked, as did my colleague Mark Miller, our officials to produce the detailed chronology. So I wanted to make sure that when we came to this committee and are able to talk about this publicly, we had the precise chronology that we could all rely on. So
that's not what you said in your letter, though, sir. You said in your letter that there was an ongoing investigation, and yet here we have this information. I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on how did this person fly under the radar for 6 years?
So this person entered Canada on the dates that you described, Mr. Caputo, and as are reflected in the chronology. The security services, CBSA, CSIS, and the Immigration Department did all of the existing security checks and the normal security checks, and including biometrics by the RCMP on a number of occasions. And there was, at the time that those decisions were made, no information that would have come to light to trigger what happened earlier this spring in terms of CSIS's investigation.
In fact, we actually had to hear from a foreign government about this. Isn't that right? That CSIS got information from a foreign government has been reported by Global?
You have been, Mr. Caputo, at this committee for some time. You know that the intelligence agencies are not going to ever discuss the sources of intelligence or information they get from partner agencies. First of all, it may be illegal to disclose that, but it's also very dangerous to the women and men who do that work, either at CSIS or in their partner agencies to confirm the sources of this information.
Well,
so I'm not able to give a definitive answer on that question, and you know that very well.
Equally as troubling as that answer is the fact that we as Canadians did not have this intelligence for ourselves.
Okay. So obviously, right off the hop, LeBlanc knew he was not going to have a good time because everybody was smiling at him.
Well, and because it sounds like this individual entered Canada under the Liberals' watch.
Oh, he did.
They were trying to make it out in previous committees that, oh, maybe it was under Harper. We don't know. Well,
Right.
we know now.
Yeah.
And it was 2018, which was a Liberal government.
And, but we're all the racists, right? So, but this is serious because you have somebody that intentionally comes to Canada, claims refugee status, requests asylum, is granted that, and that's it.
Well, and this is the problem with open border policies.
Right. And this is what can happen. And you're seeing, a lot of this, like when you see people that are quote unquote protesting, but these protests are swarming cars on the highway. And then when that person fears for their life and tries to get out of there,
yeah,
they're the ones that are arrested. Like, what is wrong with this country?
Well, to be fair, no charges were laid from what I heard.
Yeah, but still, why are you arresting the guy who drove the truck instead of arresting the people that were swarming that truck
on the on-ramp where they weren't supposed to be?
Right. Like, that's you don't get to do that, or you shouldn't get to do that and get a free pass. And we've also heard at protests people like out and out threatening police violently. Nothing happens. So this is what happens when you have these policies. You allow these people in that are potentially from terrible organizations out there, this one being ISIS, and all this time they are potentially, sleeping, waiting for direction, then planning something and about to execute on it. And again, how do foreign governments know who this guy is and ours doesn't? That's the question.
Well, I mean, Trudeau reads everything that's given to him, so...
Oh, yeah, where's that? Hold on, folks. Where's that? I'm going to find it right now.
Of course, the Prime Minister reads any documents he does receive.
That one is always at the ready. Anyhow.
I shouldn't laugh, but it's a good question. How do foreign governments know what's going on in our country and we don't know what's going on in our own country?
How is it that foreign governments know more than we do on Canadian soil?
I don't accept the premise of that comment. Every intelligence agency collaborates with partners around the world. The most effective and the most renowned intelligence cooperation would be the Five Eyes countries, of which, as you know, Canada is a member. And the information is shared between these security services on an hourly and daily basis, precisely because it makes our country safer, but we can also contribute and do often, and the great work done by CSIS, to the security of our partner countries as well. So that's a very normal security process that you understand very well.
With all due respect, Minister, you need to stop deflecting and start divulging. At this point here, you're saying, you're not even confirming it. How is it that a foreign government knew more than we did in Canada about somebody that was on Canadian soil for 6 years? How is that?
But, Mr. Caputo, perhaps I wasn't clear in the previous answer. You understand very well, and I'd be happy to ask the interim director of CSIS to explain the reasons why it is inappropriate, if not illegal, to answer questions around specific intelligence products. and more so because this is an ongoing criminal case. Some of this evidence, the prosecutors in their judgment may decide to bring before a court, before a jury at some future prosecution.
I'm not talking about the evidence. I'm talking about how the evidence was gathered. How is it that a foreign government knew more than our own government? That's what I'm talking about, not the evidence, sir. At the end of the day, this is what we have. We have somebody that came in here and was here for 6 years flying under the radar. We don't know whether this happened before, and we have no assurances from you whether or not this will happen again. You've deflected, you've diverted, and you've denied, and that is absolutely inexcusable to this point. Canadians deserve answers, and we are getting none.
Bingo. Caputo nailed it.
Yeah.
And LeBlanc's trying to say, well, you know, national security and lives could be at risk. No. And, you know, and it's trying to patronize Caputo. You know very well. Caputo says, yeah, I know very well. I'm not asking how it was collected. I'm asking, how does a foreign government know more of what's going on in Canada than we do?
Yep.
So this bull about, well, you know, there's an ongoing investigation evidence. He's not asking about the evidence. It is essentially been demonstrated that a foreign government gave us this information, say, hey, you guys know you have a terrorist on your soil, right? You better do something about that.
And thank God that foreign government did so before Canadians got hurt or died.
Yeah, and how many would have been impacted by that if that hadn't happened? That's the scary part.
Yeah.
So,
you know, we think, oh, things like this don't happen in Canada. I mean, they didn't used to. Thank God it was interrupted this time. I pray that there's not a next time.
well, and this is the problem, because you found someone who easily slid under the radar. The next question is, are there more?
Ms. Landsman, please go ahead. 5 minutes.
Minister, I'm going to jump right in my questions because you've had a month to answer these questions. But you said in your opening statement, I'm going to quote you, this is the way that the investigation, the way that the investigative and national security system should work. Your government issued a visa to somebody who was allegedly in a 2015 ISIS propaganda video, who then planned a mass casualty event outside of Toronto with a target in our city, in our country's largest city. The RCMP foiled that plot with intelligence from the French. Are you really telling Canadians that that's how our system should work? He's been here for 6 years.
Mr. Chair, what I'm saying to Canadians is that the moment the government of Canada became aware of concerning information regarding this individual, all of the appropriate steps were put in place by CSIS and the RCMP, which culminated in the arrest on the 28th of July. And thank God, as Ms. Landsman said, the potential serious risk or violence was averted. With respect to the information regarding the immigration processing, the Immigration Department will be here later and are in a position to speak to the specific steps that an applicant, whether for asylum or permanent residency, and we're looking at the security check system.
Yes,
the
Minister,
security
by my count, there's
system.
about 6 security checks in the documents that you dumped on this committee 50 minutes before it started. Do you really think that the system is working if somebody like this, who's an alleged ISIS terrorist, who, if he was even a little bit more productive, would have resulted in mass casualties in Toronto? Do you really think that that's how the system should work? Do you really think that this is not a colossal failure of your government?
I am very proud of the work that the RCMP and CSIS did in thwarting this particular case. I think, as Mr. Gallivan indicated, if you look at the tens and hundreds of thousands of these cases that are reviewed every year as people seek asylum, submit asylum claims, or apply for various visas, we necessarily rely on the work of our security agencies. We're always looking at ways to strengthen and evolve that posture as the threat context, as Ms. Lloyd said, evolves. But in this case, I am satisfied that when the government of Canada was aware or could possibly have been aware of this information, all of the steps
Well,
were taken.
they were aware 6 years ago when he came in. And speaking of that, we heard speculation,
Ms.
though.
Glassman, you can't assert something like that if you're.
He's been here for 6 years. It's just a known fact.
Again, no accountability.
No, of course not.
And, was LeBlanc Minister of Public Safety back then? No.
No, Marco Mendicino was until last year, and I don't recall who was before that, but that's not the point. The point is, like we said in the other video, you are supposed to know that file inside out and backwards.
Well, but this is the thing. Like he's saying, oh, well, I'm proud of the stuff that worked, and that's what I'm going to focus on. Here's the problem. Things like this are what they call 0% fail. Meaning, if you fail in any regard, you fail completely.
It's like defusing a bomb, right? If you cut the wrong wire, if you hit something, if you do something, that's it. It's done, right? You fail.
So, when you say, oh, well, we tried our best. Like, no, that doesn't cut it. It doesn't cut it. Sorry, but this is the job that they have. They cannot afford to fail at all. At all. It would be a little better, and I say a little, if it was our intelligence operatives that actually determined that this guy was in the country, and then, we're able to find him and deal with him. That would be one thing.
Yeah, this is a huge embarrassment for Canada that we didn't even know, and another country had to tell us. Like, thank God they did.
Yeah. Thanks, France. You guys are all right.
Well, what if it was one of our enemies who found out instead? They wouldn't have told us.
Maybe even help the guy. But this is the thing. Like, it's a 0% fail. You cannot fail even 1% of the time.
Even 0.1% of the time.
Because this is what could happen.
Your own
but
documents.
you said to assert that people were aware of some information that came to light recently, 6 years ago, is wrong.
There is speculation that he was brought in under the Syrian refugee program. Is this correct? Yes or no?
I'm not sure I can speculate on the particular immigration status and program, and I'm not sure what part of that might be subject to the criminal trial, but you could certainly ask the immigration department that question.
Do you believe that if he was brought under this, if he was brought in through this stream, the government promised increased screening on asylum seekers in this country? Do you believe that after everything we know today, that your government is doing its job on that?
But again, I don't want to give credence to the premise that you ask because I don't have that information. So I want to be very precise that you don't link his arrival to a particular immigration program. The immigration department, I think, can provide you with those facts. I don't have them, but I don't want, in answering your question, to appear to confirm that because I don't have that information. I am satisfied that both the security services and the RCMP with the immigration department have in place a series of rigorous screening and background checks that take place. You heard Ted talk about biometric screening, 6 different databases. We heard the interim director of CSIS talk about 300 agreements, 150 different countries. We have access to a great amount of information to keep Canadians safe, and we need to make sure that that information is used in the most expeditious way possible.
This person was brought into Canada 6 years before a terrorist plot was foiled, just days before they would have killed people in Toronto. And you're telling Canadians that you're satisfied with the screening processes in place.
As I said in my opening comments, this person and the nature of the allegations which ultimately led to the investigation and arrest came to our attention in June. And this person from that point on was obviously under the appropriate surveillance to ensure that any threat was mitigated and led to the ultimate arrest on the 28th of July.
Wow. So basically what he's saying is, oh, everything's fine because we had him under surveillance and we would have been prepared to stop him if he did anything.
Why would you even let it get to that point?
And that's the problem, right? They were given allegations, and then they put him under surveillance, and then obviously they determined, oh, yeah, those allegations are right. Maybe we should actually do something.
That'd be like giving a drunk driver the keys, sending them on their way, and then being like, oh, don't worry, we stopped him before he could kill anybody. That's awful.
Like, now I get it. The problem is that innocent until proven guilty, you're given allegations by a foreign government. You need to investigate those allegations. But to say that, oh, well, you know, it's fine, even though he's been here for 6 years, we were given these allegations in June, everything was under control. That's the perception that LeBlanc wants to pass over here.
Well, and I think the other perception is that, well, nothing happened.
Yeah.
But it could have happened, and that's the problem.
What happened? What would have happened if this guy planned to carry out his operation in May? You were only told in June. By luck, you were told in June, and you were able to react. And you say, "Oh, well, we have all this screening. We're very satisfied with that." Really? Apparently, it's not working good enough.
Mr. Brock, for 5 minutes.
Minister, 2 weeks ago, actually 16 days ago, the Prime Minister notified Canada that his government is taking the case very seriously. He secondly said this is a very serious situation that you, sir, as the Minister of Public Safety, would be doing a full follow-up to understand exactly how this happened. The Minister will share all that we learned in the appropriate moment. That was 16 days ago. You've indicated the process by which you've disclosed this 5-page document to committee, literally 20 minutes before the commencement. In my former career as a Crown attorney, if I tried to pull something like this in front of a judge, I would get a severe tongue lashing. This is not procedural fairness. This is highly, highly suspicious in terms of the timing by which you release that. So, moving on. I too want to talk about the video, the notorious video from 2015. According to Global News, they easily obtained a copy of that. It appeared to match the one that resulted in the aggravated assault charge that the RCMP recently laid. It shows a prisoner wearing an orange jumpsuit and suspended from a pole in a desert. A man wearing a black robe and a cap bearing the ISIS logo then hacks at the prisoner's limbs with a sword, cutting off his hands, cutting off his feet. His face briefly visible, he appears to be a middle-aged man with a henna-tinted beard. It is unclear whether the victim was already dead when he was dismembered. The video, titled "Deterring Spies," was published in June 2015 by the media arm of the ISIS branch in western Iraq, according to an expert. Now, we know that Mr. El-Didi received his citizenship in September 2023. I'm looking at the chronology under security screening note. Application was referred to CSIS for security checks in November 2023. CSIS returned a favorable recommendation. What type of message does that send to Canadians regarding our national security agency with a video that was widely distributed some 8 years previous, was not flagged against any advanced biometrics? The man's face was clearly visible. Is CSIS not tracking these videos? What other terrorists are walking the streets here in Canada right now waiting to commit terrorist acts on innocent Canadians? What the hell is going on?
That was a very powerful and disturbing opening statement from Mr. Brock.
Well, and I think he's been regarding LeBlanc's statements like we have. You're not taking it seriously. You're trying to just pass us by as don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. And Brock is trying to ground the entire committee as to what type of individual this guy is, what type of individual was allowed in this country, and the lapses in security that allowed this individual to come into this country. And if this is a guy that was committing those acts in that video, what would he have done in this plot?
Well, and that's just it. I think Brock is kind of shoving the reality of this in LeBlanc's face, but he's also exposing it to all of us too. Like, this is a very dangerous individual, and under the Liberals' watch, he was permitted not only to come into the country as a refugee, but he was also granted Canadian citizenship.
With apparently no findings from CSIS.
Well, and the thing is, you know, I think Canadians, it's in our nature to want to help. It's in our nature to want to provide a safe haven for people who maybe their country is plagued by war or illness, or maybe they're being persecuted for other reasons. But when you hear stories like this, it almost makes us not want to help. And that really is a shame for all the people that we could be helping, the people who do truly need our help.
Well, and you know, that's almost what these people want, right? Is these terrible individuals around the world, they don't want countries helping, you know, people fleeing their country.
Well, and I think, I suspect, I don't have proof, but I suspect that the Liberals would want, you know, just regular everyday citizens to be like, no, we have to stop letting anybody into this country, or we have to stop, like we have to tighten up our refugee program, so that they can all point at us and go, oh, you guys are racist. You know, look how awful you are. It's just, the whole thing's messed up.
So, Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Brock, I would also think that when in your previous job as a Crown attorney, you would be commenting with the benefit of parliamentary privilege on something that you know very well may form part of an evidence, part of the evidence in an upcoming criminal trial. As the Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP said, I'm not sure you would, on the steps of a courthouse in the middle of an ongoing trial, have been as dramatic as you were for your social media clip now.
Sir, Minister, I am not a Crown attorney right now. I am a parliamentarian asking the tough questions that Canadians want to know. Why did our National Security Agency not flag this video 8 years prior and use the image of this terrorist, if not killer, who's dismembering limbs from the person in a pole? Why was that image not flagged against every other asylum claimant to ensure that there was adequate security checks being done? According to your note, CSIS cleared this individual, returning a favorable recommendation. How did that slip through? How did that slip through, sir?
So again, you're referring to alleged dramatic images.
It's not alleged. It happened. The video is not alleged.
I think we should be careful talking about criminal evidence. But as I said in my opening comments, and Ted Gallivan is going to be able to give you some precision with respect to the video and how security screening agencies came into possession of that information. At the time when the relevant decisions were being made by the Immigration Department and the security services were doing their work, the existence of that video or the information that you have recounted to the committee now was not available. And I think Mr. Gallivan can provide some precision in terms of why that was the case.
All right. Fine. Let's see. Let's just take LeBlanc's answer and follow it to completion. So he's either saying CSIS didn't do their job, somebody in CSIS didn't do their job, CSIS hasn't been provided the right tools, or the Liberals haven't been doing their job, or all of the above.
Definitely the last one, but possibly more.
So, and again, LeBlanc just saying, oh, well, you know, whatever. Anyway, I do, to be objective, I understand LeBlanc's point about referring to the video as, you know, he shouldn't say the alleged video. He should say the video with the, you know, alleging that Buddy was in it.
Or the suspect in the video.
Because that is going to be, you know, criminal. Well, I don't even know why that's criminal evidence, because you're not arresting him for dismembering somebody.
No, I think I don't know a lot about citizenship. I think I had read that the UN says you cannot take away somebody's citizenship without them having citizenship somewhere else, like without having them somewhere to go. Because, for example, if you take away my citizenship, I am only a Canadian citizen. I live here. I am a citizen of this country. If you take that away, where am I supposed to go? What am I supposed to do? Who am I supposed to be? Right.
But my point is if you're going to charge this guy with, you know, an alleged terrorist attack, then you're throwing his ass in jail.
Yeah, so that's one possibility. But there have been talks about removing his Canadian citizenship. If you do that, I mean, where's he going to go? Where are you going to send him? You can't just kick him out of the country unless he's got someplace to go. And I believe that's according to the UN, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't know. What I'd be doing is I'd be throwing him in jail and throwing away the key, because I wouldn't just say send this guy on his way. What are the possibilities that he slips back in and then does something terrible again?
Yeah.
What's the possibility he goes to some other country and does something terrible?
But what's life in prison in Canada? It's 25 years.
No, but I would be giving him giving multiple, throw away the key is what I'm saying.
Again, you can't necessarily do that, right? You might be able to keep him in jail for the next 25 years, and then what?
Well, put me in charge. I'll make it happen.